And on the phones now, we have a graduate of the University of South Carolina Law School, former South Carolina Attorney General, and former South Carolina Republican Party Chairman. Quite a resume. Henry McMaster, good morning.
Good morning, Bryan. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Good to have you, and pleased to see that you're running, and we can debate the issues and talk about it. You've got a fine record here in South Carolina, and let me start with the obvious question for Lieutenant Governor. It's the last time we'll elect a Lieutenant Governor. From now on, it'll be a running mate with the governor starting in 2018. Why'd you decide to run?
Well, my friend Glenn McConnell decided he wanted to become president of the College of Charleston, so as soon as that happened, there was an opening there. I would not have run against Glenn. I think he was doing a fantastic job, especially on the Office on Aging for the senior population. But when that opened up, I think that the next 4 years are going to be critical in our state. There's some things we have to change to make some things happen, and there's some things we have to do better. But the future is very bright for South Carolina, but it's going to take experienced leadership to get those things done, and I think the Lieutenant Governor's office is a perfect place to do that kind of work.
Well, Lieutenant Governor McConnell has told me that he really sees this gray tsunami as a problem. It's kind of a word to best explain the senior population, which will double by the year 2030, that 10% of them currently living in poverty. And a lot of these seniors, he seems to think the biggest issues that they face is that we are spending $50,000 and $60,000 as a state to assist them in issues that if we took proactive action, we could not only save tens of thousands to the taxpayers, real tax money that could be used to fix our roadways and improve our education system, we could help these seniors not lose their home. Comment on that. What do you make of all that?
Well, Glenn McConnell, of course, is right. He has really gone deep into the issues that we have on aging older people in South Carolina, and he's right. To help keep someone in their home or with their family that is out of an institution, that can be done with collaboration and about $1,000 a year as compared to Medicaid, which is where you end up after Medicare runs out and you're in a nursing home with Medicaid, unless you happen to have a lot of money to spend on it, and that costs somewhere between $44,000 and $50,000 a year. So the economics of it makes sense. The more we can do to keep our senior citizens at home, healthy, happy, and secure, the better off everybody will be. So that means we have to use existing resources. It's a question of collaboration and organization. There are a lot of institutions, churches, civic groups, others that are there to help those people by showing up at the house and giving a break to the caregivers there, or by cooking meals, bringing meals. Also, over in Sumter, they have a new program where the police stop by the houses of the old folks from time to time and check on them. But there are some other things we need to do as well. I'd like to have a part of the aging office in a memorandum of understanding with the Attorney General's office for prosecution of elder abuse and fraud and things of that nature. And also, if we can find a way through cutting taxes on savings or on incomes or pensions or on property taxes or something. There are some bills in the legislature now to take some of the financial pressure off of our older citizens who've been paying taxes all their life and are just inches, some of them, away from having to sell their homes or move out. That would do a lot of good. So there's a lot to be done there, and I'm eager to do it. I've worked with the legislature and gotten a lot of laws passed in my time as Attorney General. I know how to do it. I know the people. And working with with the strong leadership that we can put together in the State House and in the local communities, I think we can get that done.
Henry McMaster on with us, former Attorney General, running for Lieutenant Governor. One of the things that Lieutenant Governor would play a major role in, perhaps, and you certainly did as a Attorney General of ethics reform. It appears to me that we have either a big ethics problem with the way people act in South Carolina politics, and or we have a problem with we don't understand what the law really is and what we can do or can't do. How do you assess the current scene as it relates to ethics of our legislators? How would you categorize it?
Well, both of the things you said are right. We do appear to have a problem. Now, the extent to which we have one is another question, but it's the appearance of impropriety that we've got to worry about at the very least. And here's one context in which to look at that. That is, people from around the country are looking for places to go, places to invest in businesses and to bring businesses, things of that nature. If they think that the government is dishonest, if they think it's on the take, in for themselves, if they think there's corruption or incompetence going on, they'll go somewhere else. And so often anytime there's the appearance of an impropriety like that, we have a problem. So yes, Governor Haley appointed me, along with Attorney General Travis Medlock, to head up our Ethics Reform Commission. We produced, with our great team of leaders on that commission, produced what we think and what the governor thinks was an excellent blueprint for the future. In a nutshell, we have to have a system where the legislators are not judging themselves. That is, it needs to be the Independent Ethics Commission needs to do that, and at the very least, the sources of income need to be disclosed. Now, if we could do those things, that would go a long way to restoring public confidence in their government. All across the country today, people have lost confidence in their government.
Amen.
From the presidency to the Congress on down. They think they're corrupt. They think they're incompetent. They think they're irrelevant to their lives. If we can't restore that in South Carolina, then we'll go continue to struggle along. But this is the good news, Bryan. With the stroke of a pen, the legislature could pass those new rules that would lift that cloud up from off of South Carolina, and we would be ready to compete with the other states, especially in the Southeast. That's where all the economic growth is going to take place. We have it in our capacity to be the leader in economic growth and innovation in the Southeast, which is going to lead the rest of the country. But we got to do it in the next 4 years, or we're going to get out-competed by our neighboring states.
We're talking to Henry McMaster, former Attorney General of the state of South Carolina and now running for Lieutenant Governor. We spoke just now on ethics reform, Mr. McMaster. One of the biggest cases, perhaps the poster child of the problems in our state, not Bobby Harrell himself, but this case, campaign funds, accusations are campaign funds used for flights back and forth from Charleston, $20,000, $30,000 worth of his records are not backing up stuff. Ashley Landis filing a complaint, our current Attorney General sending it to a grand jury. Then they're saying he has undue influence as a Speaker of the House on putting favor on his business, his pharmaceutical business, and then nepotism with his brother. Two of those cases I haven't agreed with. I've read them in full detail, just my opinion. But I think the campaign funds, to me, represent both the ambiguity to the laws that we need to clarify in the state and I've had the word used, not my own words, arrogance of power, perhaps. I don't want to put you in the spot to comment on the merits of the case, but there's been this recent fight between Attorney General Alan Wilson, a post you've had before, and Bobby Harrell's side. What do you make of all of this, first? And then secondly, how should a case like this play out from a legal perspective in South Carolina? Is this the way it should be going?
Well, any case that plays out in South Carolina or any place else ought to play out under the strict observance of the rule of law. That is, you just follow the law. If you follow the law, if you follow the Constitution, whether it's the South Carolina Constitution or the U.S. Constitution, you don't get into trouble. And I need to say as an aside, what President Obama is doing in executive orders and ignoring certain parts of the law and enforcing other parts is an absolute avoidance and flouting of the rule of law, and is dangerous, is a terrible example, and is going to lead to more and more trouble. But I don't want to comment on any particular case other than to go back in our history. This is not the first time we've had high-profile ethical allegations and fights going on among people. When I was in the U.S. Attorney's Office, we had the Dillon County vote fraud investigation where public officials were buying votes for $5 or a half pint of whiskey over in Dillon County. It was an infamous case. Over 30 people were convicted, including public officials. Then in 1990, you remember Operation Lost Trust. I don't remember how many. That was another federal case of the U.S. Attorney's Office, and that involved many people who were bribing legislators, paying them money, giving them credit cards, trips, suits, tires, all kinds of stuff. It was terribly embarrassing, and that was as a result of that, the state grand jury added on another area of jurisdiction, which was public corruption. The state grand jury, you remember, started back in 1989 and has slowly expanded its scope. I expanded it into several areas when I was in office.
Let me ask you this. Now,
but the whole point is we've got to have clear laws that everyone can understand. When Travis Medlock and I, former Attorney General, were heading the Governor's Ethics Reform Commission for the state, we found all kinds of laws that were vague, they were hard to understand. There's some that are right clear that apparently just are being ignored all over the place. But if you have clear laws that everyone can understand, and you have a powerful enforcement mechanism that can weed out those who would break the law, then you don't have any problems. And that's why I say we need to change those laws. We need to have a powerful enforcement mechanism. That'd be the Ethics Commission, not the legislators themselves. Nobody ought to be the judge over themselves. You got to have some independent group doing that.
Should it be the legislature?
I think these problems will go away.
In this case, I don't want to get you specifically on Bobby Harrell, but the Attorney General of South Carolina is a constitutional officer, and in this particular case, that probably should be the person presiding over the referral to the grand jury. Is that a fair statement?
Well, not only is it's an accurate statement, which is more important. And that is the Constitution of South Carolina says the Attorney General is the chief prosecutor for the state of South Carolina.
And that's how it should be. Henry McMaster.
That's plenary authority. It's wall to wall. And to change that, you have to change the Constitution, and that'd be a bad idea in my opinion.
I agree with you. Now, we've got Henry McMaster, former Attorney General, and you made a comment a moment ago I wanted to just seize on for a second. Not really relevant to your run for Lieutenant Governor, but as a former Attorney General, you look at the Obama administration, pick and choose which laws to enforce, which parts of which laws to enforce, and nothing gets done about it. There's a few Republicans crying foul, but nothing really getting done from a prosecutorial standpoint. Why is that?
Well, that's a good question, and I don't know the answer, but I can speak for myself. When we saw the Obamacare law coming in 2009, in December 2009, you remember Ben Nelson, senator from Nebraska, was going to sell his vote in order to provide the filibuster-proof Senate for Obamacare. And we told him, we told the president, we told Harry Reid and told Nancy Pelosi, who was the speaker at the time, that if they didn't take that special provision out that favored Nebraska, we were going to sue. I put together a group of 13 attorneys general. We wrote them a letter. Ben Nelson called, said he was going to take it out. He did. So then we went to the next thing. We told the president, told everyone that if they passed Obamacare with that individual mandate that requires people who didn't want, couldn't afford, weren't interested, too young, they don't want insurance, don't need it, we don't want to scramble up the free enterprise system, we said it's unconstitutional. If you pass that, we will sue immediately. They passed it on March the 23rd, and 6 minutes later we filed a lawsuit. We had 17 attorneys general, filed it in Florida. Everybody said it was frivolous at the time. People laughed at us all over television. It ended up going to the Supreme Court, and we almost won the whole case. We won part of it that allows the governor, like Nikki Haley, to opt out of Medicaid, which is a broken system to begin with. It would cost us another fortune. But unfortunately, we were unable to convince 5 of the justices, only 4, that the whole thing was unconstitutional. But that's a perfect example of how the states have got to step up to protect their sovereignty and protect their people, not only from regulations and taxes that we impose locally. We got to be careful with that, or we're gonna kill this golden goose here that can lay these golden eggs in South Carolina. But we have to stand up and be ready to react to things that are happening in Congress. That's what we did when I was in the Attorney General's office on Obamacare. We launched that lawsuit. There need to be lawsuits all over the place to try to strike out the portions of that are constitutionally suspect, and in the meantime, we need to build a health care system like the governor's doing in South Carolina that's based on wellness, not fixing people after they get sick, but keep them from getting sick in the first place.
Henry McMaster, a couple of questions for you. Running for lieutenant governor from the audience, if you don't mind. One was a caller, one on Facebook. To try to make this question simple, they wanted me to ask you what you make of the U.S. Senate race with Lindsey Graham and it seems like dozens of other people running against him. As you look at that race, a Republican, a leader in South Carolina, what would you say to people about that race?
Well, I'd say it's going to be an interesting race. Lindsey Graham, of course, has skyrocketed to national attention once he went in the Congress with the impeachment of the president. You remember he was one of the floor managers of that, and he's working hard. I want to say I'm worried about my race. I'm concentrating on that. I wish all my friends well that are running. Lindsey has been a friend of mine for many years. So have I know most of the other people that are running as well. I know it's going to be a spirited race, and I'll tell you this, everybody in the whole country is watching what happens in South Carolina, not only on that race, but the movement, the ideology, the technology, the innovation, all the things that are happening in this state are putting us on the map, and we need to do a good job of, I think we can be a model and leaders for the rest of the country in things we do right here, but it's going to take leadership, it's going to take hard work. Leadership developed through experience. I've had experience doing these things and want to put that experience and knowledge together and in place for the people of this state. I love this place. It's the best place on earth, and we need to make it even better.
One final question, and I'm going to softball this one for you from Rodney on Facebook. I agree. I disagree with the spending of $40 million or so for the African American Museum, I guess, in downtown Charleston, which is 2/3 the size of the White House. He wants me to ask you, I guess, as you would preside over the Senate, which would ultimately vote on whether this funding occurs or not, I think we can't afford it. What do you make of that particular proposal? I guess it's being spearheaded by Mayor Riley of Charleston.
I don't know anything about that proposal, unfortunately. I know that Mayor Riley works hard for the city of Charleston, and so do a lot of other people, and it's evident Charleston is the #1 tourist destination in the world for the past 3 years or something like that. We've got a port down there that's second to none, a deep water port. I happen to serve on that board and see how that is producing things for not only South Carolina but for the whole region. But one thing that we have here in our state that I'm proud of that they don't have in other states is we have a glorious history going all the way back to the very beginning. Some of our fellow states out west, they can't say that. They started off much later than we did, but we go way back to the beginning of the founding of the country. There were more battles in the Revolutionary War fought in South Carolina than any place else. And we've played a pivotal role, but our culture, the history and our culture are things that I think must be preserved in order to give us stability and understanding of what it means to be a South Carolinian, but also as for commerce and tourism. I mean, we have a gold mine of things here that we can show to people, and I think museums and nature trails and the glorious environment, the marshes, saltwater marshes, the oceans, the beaches, mountains, all that. I mean, we really do have it all, and I think.
So I guess I hadn't thought of it that way. I mean, it'd be great to attract tourism, which produces taxes. I guess we have to figure out how to fund it and afford it, which is ultimately what if you were elected as lieutenant governor, you'd preside over the Senate, and that'd be one of the many issues you'd face. We'll have to leave it there for now. Henry McMaster, former Attorney General of South Carolina. We wish you luck in the race.
Thank you. I'll take it.
Thanks for joining us. The primary June 10th.